So I'm modifying an old Canon Super 8 projector to do some scanning of old films at slower speeds, and I came across an idea for triggering the camera. I've got point gray machine vision cameras, and I decided to try out a little magnetic sensor. This is actually a sensor that came from a dishwasher that I just had replaced because the thermistor was bad. That's another story, but the float switch in it was still good, and it works on a magnetic ring that goes up and down. And I thought, well, something like that, mechanical switch, magnetically activated. I thought maybe I would just try sticking a magnet on the shaft and see how that works. It actually works quite well. Just an idea, somebody who's looking for different ways to trigger their cameras. Getting a really nice repeatable square wave. And I can take the speed up pretty high if I want to. And it still gives me nice output. So just an idea if you're looking for alternate ways to trigger. I was originally going to use the blade and put an optical sensor in between. But this seems to work pretty good. I might use this instead. One other thing, my camera can trigger on a rising or falling edge. You just program it. But if you need a longer pulse width or more spread out, all you need to do is move the sensor in closer to the magnet and you'll get more of a true type square wave. One other nice feature of the neodymium magnets is you can just simply rotate the magnet in its position around the shaft to change when the trigger happens. So you're not stuck to, mounting a specific detent or a blade at a certain position, and you can change the trigger pretty easily. It seems to stay in place. It's resting right up against the collar and it hasn't moved for me. But if you just rotate it around the shaft, you can change when in the frame your camera triggers, and that will give you the most room for doing long exposures from when the claw finally pulls the film down and releases it. So this is another test just using a really small magnetic reed switch. I also threw a LED in series with a current limiting resistor just to show when the switch closes. It works pretty well. You can mount it just about anywhere. They're pretty small. So these work pretty decent and can be used as a triggering mechanism for your camera. And here's a picture of the reed switch with a couple leads soldered to it. And then this is it installed with some heat shrink tube over it and just taped onto the side. I also used a smaller rectangular magnet there that works pretty well. And here's a test setup showing the whole thing in action, doing the camera triggering. I do have the LED hooked up to this just to show when the frames are being captured, but that's not necessary. This is using a previous version of a light source. I had since changed that, but this is using the smaller reed switch in there with the rectangular magnet to do the triggering. And so here's my chicken scratch of a simple schematic for triggering my camera. It's just simply a 5-volt source hooked up in series with a magnetic reed switch, and it works pretty well. You'd have to check your manual to see if you have similar inputs for your camera triggering. But this works for the Chameleon USB 3 camera, and this particular schematic doesn't have the LED in series, but you don't really need that.